If you thought President Trump's challenge to the globalists on matters of foreign policy, war, or cultural policy stirred up a firestorm, you haven't seen anything yet. Back in 2023, in a speech to auto workers in Michigan, Donald Trump threw out a challenge to Americans to join in the ultimate strike against the global financier elite. The first 5 weeks of Trump's 47 administration have initiated that strike. Donald Trump and his team are beginning to challenge the very essence of the empire's power, which is their grip on the world through their central banking system and their control of money. And they know it. Their response ranges from the threat of a financial meltdown to the continuing danger of World War III. That's how insane they are. This is Susan Kokinda, and in this midweek update, I'm going to look at why and how we can defeat them, what are our weapons, and what is our strategy. The first thing you do when you're fighting a war is understand the nature of the enemy. Well, the enemy is empire. Most of you have been accustomed to calling them the globalists, but it really is time to shift from the generic name to the brand name. And the brand name is the British Empire in its modern form, not, by the way, the British people. The only effective opposition to empire is the sovereign nation state in its most advanced form, namely the republic. So let's look at the difference between our relations, or lack thereof, with Canada and our relations with Mexico. Donald Trump's defense of our sovereignty and our people has forced the elites to come out of the closet and make Mark Carney the Prime Minister of Canada. As Barbara went through in her Monday update, Carney is the pure essence of British imperialism, a Canadian trusted enough by the British elite to serve as the head of the Bank of England for 7 years, the only non-British person to do so since it was founded in 1697. Or, as Politico put it, Carney is a career banker and a climate advocate with the globalist mindset of a Davos man. He made no doubt of his assignment in his acceptance speech. Here's what Carney said. There's someone who's trying to weaken our economy. Donald Trump has put unjustified tariffs on what we build and on what we sell and how we earn a living. He's attacking Canadian workers, families, and businesses. We can't let him succeed. So the British Crown is out in the open, prepared to deploy its vassal state to the north of us against us. And I'm going to preempt some outraged statements in the comments section by those who claim that Canada is a sovereign nation. This is from the Canadian government's website. In today's constitutional monarchy, His Majesty King Charles III is King of Canada and Canada's head of state. So when Donald Trump had to take on Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who was threatening to cut off electricity to American families and businesses, the president really was walking in the footsteps of our forefathers. Only he used the threat of tariffs successfully rather than muskets. Now, contrast Carney's hostility to the United States to the speech given by Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum on Sunday. Mexico, unlike Canada, is a republic, and its constitution was strongly influenced by ours. While she didn't gloss over some of the more difficult periods in U.S.-Mexican relations, Sheinbaum reviewed the many examples of historical cooperation between the two republics, stressing, I want to highlight today the good examples of respect for our sovereignty and our collaboration and support. Today, I would like to take this opportunity to tell the American people that we have no intention, nor will we have any, of harming them, and that we are determined to work with them in all areas. And she went on to stress the fight against fentanyl, which Mexico is cooperating with the United States with, unlike the Canadians' dismissal that it's really not that big a deal. Now, that's the difference between empire and republic. I encourage you to go to the Promethean Action website and check out the post, A Tale of Two Countries, which contrasts the speeches of Carney and Sheinbaum, and subscribe to our newsletter. Before we turn away from foreign policy, note that the elections in Greenland yesterday showed overwhelming support for the two parties leading the charge for independence from the Danish monarchy. I'm going to leave other developments on the foreign policy front, such as the Ukraine ceasefire and the pending Russian response, to Barbara's Saturday wrap up. The danger of war still remains a prominent weapon in the empire's arsenal. But let's look at how things are unfolding on the economic front. The media is dominated by warnings of recession, stock market collapse, and financial turmoil. Now, there is a very real threat of a financial crisis, thanks to the giant speculative bubble which the central banks, the City of London, and Wall Street have created. This has frankly been in the making since 1971, when Nixon was forced by the British to end the Bretton Woods system, and he took the dollar off the gold reserve standard. The extreme speculative side of this has metastasized in recent decades, thanks in part to Mark Carney's stint as the head of the Bank of England. There are apparently some very interesting discussions going on among various Trump officials and confidants, grappling with how to deal with these systemic distortions in the existing global financial system and still keep the dollar as the world's reserve currency. Aside from the merits of whatever specific proposals may be thrown around, this means that Donald Trump's team recognizes the magnitude of what it is facing and that it is systemic. But the fundamental solution to this crisis is a dramatic shift in the very substance of what constitutes economic policy. In other words, what is the basis for your economic system? President Trump has alluded to this. When he's asked about the perturbations in the stock market, he says he's not concerned because this is only about money. Trump and his team are singularly focused on something else: physical production, good-paying jobs, and an increase in the real living standards by bringing about a golden age of manufacturing. The Trump team has been hammering down on jobs and production, not financial gain. So let's break this down. Yesterday, Reuters carried a headline: JP Morgan economist sees 40% recession chance. This, of course, is the leading talking point among the establishment economic press, and I don't just mean left-wing, I mean Fox and the Wall Street Journal as well. So the JP Morgan economist said, there is about a 40% chance of a U.S. recession this year and a risk of lasting damage to the country's standing as an investment destination if the administration undermines trust in U.S. governance. Investment destination. Investment in what? Basically, what this JP Morgan chief economist is saying is in money and in financing our huge deficit. Compare that with Donald Trump before the Business Roundtable yesterday, or Howard Lutnick on CBS News, focusing instead on investment in jobs and production in the United States, which will result in higher living standards. Notice how many times Trump and his team are attacking the globalists. Yesterday, White House Press Secretary Leavitt defended Trump's tariffs by attacking the, quote, globalists who won't love this because it brings jobs back to America. Lutnick, in his interview on CBS yesterday, was unrelenting on how American workers have been screwed, his words, and destroyed by free trade policies, and how good-paying union jobs have been lost. He said that one of the most horrible statistics he's ever seen is the fact that American workers with a high school education have a life expectancy 7 years lower than those with college degrees. He said that this is because of despair. If I move your factory where your grandfather and father worked and you lose your job, you end up with drugs, alcohol, suicide, and then fentanyl comes in and finishes it. Trump is going to rebuild. He's going to bring back these jobs, and the life expectancy of these people will be equal to the rest of the workforce. Every time the interviewer brought up how the markets are being rattled with uncertainty, Lutnick drilled down on the creation of real jobs through investment in the United States, and that living standards will rise through better paying jobs and the lowering of inflation. J.D. Vance spoke the same language in a speech before the National League of Cities on Monday, making the point that it's not about how much money you have, It's what you can buy with it. He spoke of the need to create jobs where one income can raise a family. This is a familiar theme of many of us here at Promethean Action. He talked about how the cost associated with owning a home is 2 times higher than the total average family income, not per capita income, but twice what a family with who knows how many jobs can afford. The Trump team is talking a new language, and this is our bread and butter here at Promethean Action. The need to eliminate the metric of money in determining whether your economy is working and looking at it from the standpoint of the ability to reproduce your workforce and your productive capacity with higher standards of living and greater physical economy. Our ebook, What Donald Trump Can Do with the American System 2.0, was written to teach you and policymakers this new language. Learning this new language will help you understand why Donald Trump supported the continuing resolution and bludgeoned a whole lot of Republicans into supporting it yesterday. Congress, and especially Republicans, have been obsessed with treating the federal budget like balancing a household checkbook. Supporting a resolution extending government funding has always been anathema to them. But Trump and his team know that the way out of this crisis is to build our way out with tariffs, by bringing in new investment, by reshoring American manufacturing, and yes, by cutting waste because it's wasteful. That is not going to happen overnight, although the statistics just released yesterday did show inflation slowing. A budget showdown and a government shutdown was not what Trump needed, and he made that clear. The vote yesterday of 217 to 213 saw one brave Democrat voting with Republicans, a Democrat from Maine, and the Libertarian Republican Thomas Massie voting against. This now goes to the Senate, where Senate Democrats have been put in a box, not wanting to be responsible for shutting down the government, because that is going to take away their phony talking points about how Trump and Musk are hurting government workers with layoffs and chaos. So stay tuned as this ultimate strike against the globalist financier class unfolds, because that is how we will win this war. This has been your Midweek Update. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for watching. Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at prometheanaction.com.